to begin with this, Hogwarts Legacy just dropped this morning a cinematic trailer for the game. It looks to be in-engine, which is pretty standard for Unreal Engine games. They just kind of, I don't know how it works, but my understanding is that they can basically just bring all the dials up to 35 out of 10 and then pre-render everything, and it just slowly renders the entire trailer, and then you're good. So it looks to be within the engine. It looks really good. They seem to nail the tone and the music. And then they also show some things we haven't seen in gameplay trailers or anything else, but this would seem to confirm that these things will be in the game. So without further ado, let's go and look at the cinematic trailer of Hogwarts Legacy. Here we go.
Take this.
Instantly copyright struck.
Find them.
Professor Weasley! We don't know what magic caused this.
It looks fire.
Come on, settle. I said settle. Abracadabra!
So right off the bat, I mean, they nail the editing. It looks great. They do a couple of other things where they show, of course, the use of, but then they also have a pretty varied number of set pieces. You can see very open design. This seems to be London, of course, with Big Ben in the background. Does that confirm that we'll be able to go to a section of Loveland? That's not London. London. I don't think so. I think that's probably reading into this a little bit, because this seems to be a reference to probably a cutscene that starts the game where the player gets their invitation. Maybe we can go to London or a part of it. I don't know, but I wouldn't bank on it. But at the very least, it shows that's where the main character's story begins. We see, you know, in the forest, all the creepy spiders. I kind of wonder if they're going to have the arachnophobia setting. You guys remember Grounded by Obsidian? They had the arachnophobia setting in the visual, like, graphic settings, and you could crank it down to be less scary, to the point where they're just like big white balls with 2 black eyeballs and stuff. And it was meant to, you know, if you struggle with arachnophobia, then you can turn that on, and then they don't look like spiders and you can deal with it more. But it would be really, really funny if they did that here, and then you can change the settings so that it's just blobs attacking you in the forest. That's one of those accessibility options I can appreciate in a game like Grounded, but I do not blame developers if they don't want to do that, especially in something like Harry Potter, where, like, you know, the spiders in this forest are kind of important and it's not just thrown in there for quick scares. Like, it's kind of important. So if you were able to turn them into blobs, it might kind of be underwhelming. But you see this, and the cool thing about this is that being in engine, what it usually would signify is that everything you're seeing has been built in the game, but they've just cranked up like smoke effects, lighting quality. They've ray traced everything. You know, they've really taken it up a notch in terms of the finishing touches in ways that you wouldn't normally be able to do. But, like, clearly these are in-game models of the characters. This, if you told me this was taken as a straight, like, clip from a cinematic, I would believe you. Like, this doesn't look that outrageous. You know, this obviously looks good, but this also looks like an in-game cinematic. If I play it, I'm going to mute it so that the audio doesn't sound insane. But if we play it at lower speed, you can see it looks like in-game content in a very good way. And I mean, it looks fire. It looks fire. But all of the little bitty details are all very well realized here. You know, I as I said in the collab I did with Retro, I'm very excited for this game. My videos on like the skeptical look are mainly built out to be, in a lot of ways, they're meant to talk me down off the cliff because I don't want to get crazy hyped. I want to keep a level head. So I bring myself back down with those videos where we can break it down a little bit more carefully. But I mean, you see just how faithful this recreation of the castle and everything else has been. And you know what? I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Dragons. We got ourselves some dragons. They look spoopy. And all told, I mean, it just looks to be a really, really solid recreation. And I mean, in a lot of ways, it seems to be exactly what a lot of people were hoping and praying for for a long time. So I'm very, very excited for this. Without a doubt. Jean-Marco, can't wait to be canceled for enjoying the game. Well, that brings us to the next kind of natural discussion point, which is that a lot of people on Twitter, and by a lot of people, I mean probably around 1,000 people across the internet, across the billions, are calling for not just the boycott of Hogwarts Legacy, but they are saying that if you buy it, you are a piece of crap. And that I don't fully buy. What I will ask everybody is that in chat we try to be, you know, a little bit more mature about this topic. I know like kind of shit posting can be funny and fun and engaging, but this is I mean, I think it's fair to take this a little seriously because of course, like, let's be real. If it were the case that buying this game made you a horrible person, I would want to know that because I don't want to be a horrible person, right? So I'm going to take this claim relatively seriously, even if I think some of the people making the claim are, you know, being a little trolly.
We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
I'm going to take it seriously nonetheless and try to evaluate it, hopefully fairly. So for the purposes of this, let's take it out of the realm of Harry Potter, okay? Because a lot of people are just so hyped over it being Harry Potter that they probably have some like blinders on a little bit. So let's try to evaluate this fairly. Let's say that there's a new game coming out called Gibblegook. Okay, the game Gibblegook, highly anticipated. People are excited for it because it looks good. It's being developed by a team that's, you know, let's say it's like 500 people, and 500 people are working on it. But the game's story is based on the work of, let's use an actual example, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft was like a raging racist. I don't know if you knew that, but you read some of his writings. I could not read them on stream without getting permabanned. He said like actual pretty horrible stuff. Like he was out there. But he is like the father of modern horror in a lot of ways. Games like Bloodborne are almost one-to-one recreated based off of his work, with heavy inspiration from him on the monsters and all this stuff. And Harry Potter Lovecraft. I didn't even realize I did it. Favorites, that's funny. Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft. Harry Potter Lovecraft. So let's say that it's a game people are excited for. It's been developed by people hundreds of times over. And it's heavily inspired by this guy, H.P. Lovecraft. On the and then we're gonna add nuance to this, okay? So we're gonna add some layers to it because I can already anticipate what some people will say. But if you bought Gobbledygook, is that what I said it was called? I don't even remember at this point. But if we bought Gobbledygook, would that make us supporters, or like, would that make us as bad as H.P. Lovecraft? Would that make us, you know, on his level? I think most people would say obviously no. For one, the dude's dead, so that kind of complicates things, which is why we'll change it in a moment to somebody alive. But for one, he's no longer with us, so who cares? And secondly, it's separating art from the artist, so I don't consider it to be like, oh, you're contributing to this because you're enjoying the content. You know, that's a little iffy. Same with like if you listen to Wagner's music, and some of his operas that he wrote. Wagner was somebody lauded by the Third Reich, for example. Adolf Hitler said, in order to understand National Socialism, you have to understand Wagner, and you cannot understand it until you understand Wagner. Does that mean listening to Wagner's music makes you a Nazi? No. Those are not connected. Maybe you know what? There probably is some overlap, some correlation. If you are a Nazi, maybe you do really like Wagner because you heard, good old Adolf say that. But that doesn't mean that anybody who likes it supports that, right? And really what this comes down to is this Puritan idea that was sort of tied up in the 60s here in the States, called McCarthyism. And basically it goes back to the Red Scare when everybody in the US was terrified of communists, right? Everybody was mortified of communists because they said, oh, it's the Russians. The Russians are spying on us. And the Chinese are spying on us, so that was the big terror. And the whole thing was that if you had anything to do with a known or accused communist, you were then a communist, and they would cancel you and you would lose your job and people would riot outside your house and things. You couldn't be elected to public office. People would freak out. And it's something that's largely been forgotten in the States, but it is a real thing that happened, and it was kind of insane for a long time. And in this case, it's if you associate or have anything tangentially to do with people that have regressive or backwards social views, then you are considered to be supporting them and you're just as bad. So in the example of H.P. Lovecraft, he's dead. He's passed on. Yes, he was a very, very nasty person in a lot of ways. Making something based off of his work, listening to Wagner's music, that stuff, listening to Michael Jackson's music, that is a little bit of a stretch to say that you shouldn't do those things. Is it like, should it make you uncomfortable? Maybe, but that's definitely a stretch. With J.K. Rowling, the question is, well, she gets paid from this because she owns Harry Potter. And so when you buy Hogwarts Legacy, she will get a cut of those sales. Now, J.K. Rowling, I think it's fairly well known that she donates every dollar that she gets over $999,999,999 because she doesn't want to be a billionaire. So she donates every dollar past that point to charities. I've heard it said that she donates to charities that are, according to the people on Twitter, transphobic, or that at the very least don't support trans issues. The organizations basically that focus just on women's and like feminist goals, right? So they say, as a result, you may not be making her richer, but she's taking that money that she's getting as a cut of these sales and she's giving it to organizations that don't necessarily support trans issues or trans rights. And I can understand that. And I think that that's a much more interesting argument to say, to argue in favor of like a boycott, right? So I can understand that point a little bit more. However, still, what you're seeing online is an ocean of people that say, basically, I'm all for trans rights. I support it. I've donated to causes with that as the main goal privately. I take it pretty seriously. However, I do separate art from the artist at some point. And if I were to start basically breaking down all of these things and making it so, okay, this person is good friends with Kanye and also invested in Kanye's clothing company, so he's profiting off of Kanye's craziness, so I'm not going to support him. And then this person knows that guy and is good friends with him, so I can't support that. Pretty quickly, you'll start to realize that you can't engage in society because you have to live like a Puritan if you start to live life in that way. And society quickly collapses. And so while I think it's noble in a lot of ways to come along and say, I am going to, let's just say, I'm not going to buy this game. I'm going to boycott it. I'm not going to listen to Michael Jackson's music. It makes me uncomfortable. I'm not going to go to Neverland on a vacation tour. I'm not going to listen to Kanye's music. If you want to do that, I think that is perfectly reasonable, and I support you, and I'll give you a pat on the back. And I think that's you're following your convictions, and I think that that's a lot more than a lot of people do. What I get uncomfortable with is when Puritan types start to demand that other people live by their rule sets, by their moral dictum. And I get upset when religious leaders do it, when church leaders do it and say, no, you can't get married if you're gay because that's against our moral virtues and guidelines. We're all like, a lot of us would be pissed about that and be like, okay, sit down, shut up. But when it comes to this thing, we're okay with it because we might agree with it. And the whole thing, I think, at the end of the day is that we have to be willing to let people make their own ethical and moral decisions. And we can agree, we can disagree, but fundamentally, moral and ethical decisions are up to the individual. That's what makes them moral and ethical decisions. If you are making moral and ethical decisions for fear of the mob, I wouldn't consider that a moral or ethical decision. If I hold a gun to your head and I say, do this thing because it's good, and then you do that thing, I wouldn't say that you did the good thing. I would say that you just did something because you were terrified that you had a gun to your head, right? So when you're afraid of the mob, I don't find that to be a compelling way to create a more virtuous or ethical world. I think what's much more reasonable is to try to turn something positive out of it. So, you know, when you play Hogwarts Legacy on launch day, do a fundraiser for charities that support trans rights. Why not do that? You know it's going to have tons of attention. Like I've said that before. I was like, okay, well, when I do my big critique, why not just do a fundraiser? And on that video, any donations, any money that comes in, it just goes to the charity. Why not do that? Take this kind of sucky thing or this thing that has like a complicated nuance to it and make something good out of it. Raise some money for a good cause. I don't understand why we have to burn it all to the ground as the only option. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. So with that being said, that's kind of my overarching thoughts on it. I don't think you can compel ethical or moral behavior. Then you just end up with automatons and you don't actually end up with a better world. You end up with people who are doing things that you think look good on the surface, but they're doing them for the wrong reasons. And that doesn't fix the fundamental problem, which is people's perceptions of these issues. So rather, I think it makes more sense to advocate for causes and charities that can work on explaining these things to people, helping people understand this new perspective for them. Because for a lot of people, these perspectives on trans rights and things and trans issues, it's a new thing for a lot of people. They just haven't considered it before. I know a lot of people that live in the South still, because I grew up there. A lot of them literally have just never had it explained to them in a clear and coherent way, like what is actually being argued and what the cause even represents, because it's all just been so political and it feels like either you have to be totally against it or totally for it, boycotting everything else. And I think more nuanced conversations will be much more effective than boycotts in the long run. And I think also with the crazy amount of hype and excitement for this game, the numbers it's going to sell, I would much rather use that as a tool to do good instead of just trying to burn it to the ground and tell everybody around me that they're terrible people if they happen to engage with it, you know? So that's my overarching thoughts on this. Maddie did a video, it seems, discussing this topic. And as you guys know, we've been building the Lego Titanic here on stream. You see it behind me. We are making progress. That is the piece I'm working on now. I'm very close. I think I have like 2 or 3 bags left to finish that. And then we'll just have the stern. So we're close. You also notice I moved the Hogwarts Castle over here. So it barely fit there. It's like hanging off bad. But this Lego Titanic is going to take up the entire length of that when it's done. It is a meaty boy. So I'm going to pull those Lego pieces up. We're going to start working on it while we react to Maddie's video. I have followed Maddie for a long time. Maddie is actually one of the first inspirations I had to get into YouTube. I used to watch him way back in the day talk about Fallout 4, and like he would do those hype speculation videos on Fallout 4 like we're seeing a ton of people do for Hogwarts Legacy, where he'd be like, oh, Bethesda released 4 t-shirts on this one day, and the 4 shirts represent Fallout 4, and they released it without an announcement, which means that they might be releasing Fallout 4 without an announcement. And like, it just gets totally insane. So we're gonna go through this and see what he thinks on this topic, and I want to hear his perspective because it's always, you know, really, really interesting. For this, Rocky, you can include the lead up to Maddie. Let's include the reaction to Maddie's content because we're gonna shoot for this final thing to be like around probably an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour long. Those longer stream clips do a lot better. So cut out this rambly part, but we'll just lead right into that. Let me grab the Legos and we can just pop right in. Thank you guys for being civilized during that initial conversation and discussion on this. Cause I know like when we talk about these things, it's easy to kind of start trolling and hamming it up. Cause let's be real, a lot of the people on Twitter who are calling for the boycotts, I'm not even convinced are actual people who support that position. I think most of them are trolling because a lot of them will start with like the basic talking points and then they'll say like the comment I posted to our Discord earlier. They came in and they said on the YouTube channel that because the goblins in the game are your enemy and the goblins are fighting like a revolution for their rights or something, that the player is being fascist in the main quest. And so it's a game that promotes fascism. And like that sounds to me like a PO. And if you don't know what a PO is, it's the thing of when somebody like is trying to mimic and parody an extremist position on the internet, you can't actually tell the difference between the legitimate position and the parody because they're so ridiculous. And that's where I landed with that comment. And there's been a lot like that on Twitter where I can't tell if somebody's being serious or if they are just that kind of wacky. I don't know. And for that person, I really don't know because it was insane. Like, I was like, okay, I was with you, but then you started talking about how that's just like a fascist middle schooler. Like, okay. I don't know about that, dude. It's just, it's like we said in that video where we reacted to, what was, I feel bad. I can never remember his name. I don't know, another YouTuber. We did the day before reaction video. And in that video, we were looking at his stuff and he made some really good arguments for why the game looks ridiculous. But then he like leads in with a really bizarre follow-up point saying that this like gas station in the game was taken and basically ripped off from another game. And it's like he's showing it and it just looks like a gas station. Like no part of it looks to be scandalous at all. I was like, okay, well, I mean, you made some good points, but I feel like that last thing you did undermined your whole argument. Because when you're arguing on the internet, if you make 5 good points and 1 horrible point, people will just remember the horrible point. You have to just focus on the good stuff. Otherwise, people will just, like, it just doesn't work. Maddie with the solid middle part. Yeah, he's gone through a few different haircuts in his day. I remember back when I was watching him, he had, it wasn't quite a bowl cut, but it was close. It was similar to that. And now he's got the mid part a little longer. He's grown out the goatee. Come on, you. So, yeah, I've been watching Maddie for a long time. Like, the first time I did a collab with him was back in 2017. I went on his podcast. And it was really cool, you know, because in a weird way, even though he's not that much older than me, I was kind of meeting one of my idols because, like I said, he inspired me to start YouTube. And I started doing like Fallout 4 news videos and stuff. And so to see him do this was like, it was just like, I don't know. It was interesting to see him transition from Fallout 4 to what he does now, which is just general gaming content. Because it was, I mean, he was deep in the Fallout grind. And I remember when he first made the pivot off of it, a lot of his fans got pretty upset because they're like, no, we follow you for this stuff. No, back to the Bethesda stuff. And he's like, guys, they aren't going to have another game for like 6 years. So it's something I talked to about, or I talked to Retro about it actually after our Hogwarts collab, because he was like, yeah, I'm going to have to pivot away from Hogwarts Legacy again after the game comes out. I was like, yeah, no, it's not going to be easy. It happens. But when you commit your whole channel to one game and then one game, that one game comes out, it's kind of hard to figure out what to do next, so I don't blame him for being a little stressed about where he's going after this. But, Retro will figure it out. I don't know if he'll jump into one game again, find another game he's hyped about. We'll see. But anyway. Like you and AC? Yeah, I don't think I ever got to the point where I was just covering AC. I like, of course, did a ton of stuff with AC. I've made a lot of videos on it, critiques on it. So I've done it a lot before. But I don't think I ever fully committed to it. I made a good number of videos on like The Witcher 3 and stuff like that. But I've never fully committed to one game since Fallout 4 because I realized very quickly, okay, the game's out. What now? Like, I built an audience around this one thing. How do I move forward? I don't know. Vite, yeah, he's Soulsborne, but he also gets such ridiculous views on his videos that he can justify it. Like, if you're getting 1 million views on every upload, you only need to post like once every few weeks, and you'll be okay. And so for him, he's fine. He's totally fine. And the audience for FromSoft videos is big enough that I think you can justify it. What are we building? We are building the Lego Titanic. Sent me a link with the thing. Okay, I will start this video. We'll start watching it, and then I will try to add you as an editor from there, Rocky. You won't be able to download the stream till it ends, I think. But I'm not entirely sure. But from there, we can just move on. You should collab with Gingy. You'll have to remind me who that is. Is that just his name? Is that who he is? Oh. Let's see. How far is it? Or is that all you have so far? We have the bow. Out of my way, box. We have the bow. The first half of the middle half. So the second quarter of the ship. This is the third quarter. And then after this, we have the stern, which is the last third of the ship that we are going to have to figure out. It's going to be a big boy, but, you got to finish it strong. Okay, Maddie, let's do this.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, digging deep into a video game that we have yet to cover on this channel. Since the announcement of...
Which is amazing. Like, normally, Maddie does like 5 videos a week. And so, like, to see him not talk about a game that's been very, very hyped is not super common.
Hogwarts Legacy, this game has been mired in controversy and drama, and I've stayed relatively quiet on the subject, just watching from afar, occasionally diving into the thought pieces that are going around, inspecting the boycotts, but relatively keeping to myself. Up until lately, I've spoken about it a decent amount on Defining Duke, more so focused on the lacking consistency from outlets and certain gamers around the industry. But now that I've taken that time to really take the deep dive on all that is surrounding this game, I'm here to throw my hat in the ring on what's going on surrounding Hogwarts Legacy and just have more of a conversation on where we are at as an industry, because I feel like Hogwarts Legacy is more so indicative of a larger problem than what we're really focusing on, which is a lot of people trying to ostracize this game, and honestly to the point of failure, because according to the sales charts right now, Hogwarts Legacy is the #1 game on Steam for purchases, and that's insane given it's 4 weeks from launch. Same for PlayStation 5, and it's #2 on Xbox, only behind Modern Warfare 2. So really, really crazy success already. Is it justifiable or not? We're going to really dive deep into that subject matter today. Now, I will warn you that this video is going to be a little bit more scripted than my usual content. Normally, I just have...
Can't blame him. Can't blame him at all. You got to walk on eggshells with this stuff. But, I mean, like I said, I think the overarching lesson of this is that Basically, like, I think the overwhelming majority of gamers are not convinced by the arguments to boycott. So even calling this a controversy doesn't really feel fair. But I get what he's saying. Like, I totally get it. But it doesn't really feel right to call it a full-on controversy because it's such a niche issue. Like, so few people are actually going to boycott it. The people that, most of them that are actively calling for boycotts, were never going to play this game. They're not gamers. And you can tell that. Like, look on their Twitter profiles. And they're not gamers. They don't game. And they're like, I'm going to be passing on this game. It's, wow, real bold of you. Wow. It's like me announcing that I'm not going to buy Ye's latest sneakers. Like, wow, how bold. How brave, how stunning, how beautiful. Like, I was never going to buy them before. And so it's not a huge sacrifice for me to come along and be like, oh, I'm not going to do that. I shall pass.
I have a list of bullet points and I riff off of that because the subject matter usually isn't so serious. But in this case, given that it is more serious, I want to be careful with that type of stuff and make sure what I'm saying is clear. So let's dive right into the heart of the matter. If you're new here and you're into video game conversations like these, deep dives like these, consider subscribing. Let's begin with J.K. Rowling. She's really at the heart of all of this, right? So we're not going to go into her specifically beyond the fact that she is an extremely polarizing figure and at the heart of whether or not you should support this game and if it's justifiable or not. And the concern here lies in the people who are boycotting the game, that she has a hatred, particularly of transgender people, and that will spread and it will embolden her if Hogwarts Legacy is a success. Now, to make it clear on a number of fronts, I want to say this, that you can choose to support the game or not. I'm here to just discuss the matter, right? Like, I'm diving into the lack of consistency from outlets to make my stance clear, but I'm not here to convince you one way or the other on what you should do with Hogwarts Legacy. If I do take issue with anything, it's the ongoing bullying for those who choose to buy the game or even work as a part of it, or in other end of the spectrum, it's those who have chosen to buy it, going after those who have chosen to boycott it. It's the internet. I'm not really expecting everyone to get along and give each other hugs, but I do think to some extent it's got a bit out of control now.
I will say, I do find it kind of entertaining to watch, like, the people who are trying to bully others into boycotting it getting trolled online as a result of that. Like, normally it's the other way around. Normally it's the people that are you know, they're just bullying people into not buying it and into boycotting it for sake of their mission and set goal. But it's kind of flipped the other way. We're now, like, 4chan and all of these other online sites have made it like their goal to just roast the crap out of people who are calling for boycotts and stuff. It's an interesting reversal because I don't remember that being a thing with a lot of other gaming scandals or anything, but it has been interesting.
To make my stance clear, I do support the LGBTQ community. It's something that's always been really important to me. You know, I see what's online. I know how people feel about this game. I myself am not even a big Harry Potter fan. I haven't even finished watching all the movies. I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Maddie. You were doing so well. I don't know. I mean, I guess that does explain why he hasn't, like, covered the game a lot, because he's not a huge fan of the series if he hasn't watched all the movies. I get it. Like, I totally get it. Is he going to come along and is the follow-up going to be, I've read all the books and the books are so much better than the movie? Is that what he's going to do? That would actually be kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, that would explain why he hasn't finished the movies and why he hasn't covered this before. So I guess that makes sense. So Ben, basically, just to run through it quickly, J.K. Rowling is a TERF, which means trans exclusionary radical feminist. That's her term. And what that basically translates to is that she says that feminist issues are not trans issues and they should be treated separately because, like, people who are born female or assigned female, whatever you want to say, their life experience and their problems and difficulties are just different than trans issues. So they should be treated differently. And you shouldn't call, like, a trans woman's difficulties in life women's issues. They're trans issues. So her whole thing is that you separate them out. And after people tried to cancel her over those statements, she started kind of hamming it up, and then she would post regular like memes and stuff on Twitter, kind of making fun of trans advocates and stuff. So she definitely poked the bear. She definitely poked the bear. I think, TB, what I saw, I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet that she sent out like a year and a half ago where she just like tweeted out the definition of TERF. And then she said like, sounds good to me or something like that. I'm fairly certain that she did that. I mean, if she didn't say that, I would be very, very interested in knowing that. But I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet that she sent out that said that.
But I think it's important to stress that factor with my support. You know, I don't align with J.K. Rowling's views personally, but all in all, I think it's important that you, as a consumer, have the choice to decide.
Oh my God, I just thought of it. Is the Quartering making videos on this? Probably. Those have to be the most brain dead videos ever. Like, oh my God, that's got to be so funny. That's got to be so funny. Man, even when I was in my rut where I was kind of like in the Steven Crowder, like, oh yeah, I'm thinking outside the box. Even when I was in that phase, I don't think I ever thought the Quartering was like impressive or anything. And I bet he's got some really funny videos on this topic. I'm sure there's got to be a lot of funny stuff on that.
Whether or not you play this game. At the end of the day, I plan to cover Hogwarts Legacy when it comes out. To make my review, as per usual, I plan to go over to Retro Rebound, do remembering the Harry Potter games, maybe play one of those games for a separate video. Like, I do plan on doing my coverage across both my channels on there. Personally, to me, I feel like J.K. Rowling is far enough away from this project where I don't think she's having the major impact that many are assuming. And by far enough away, I do mean her submitting her views of the world or different groups of people into the creative product. Of course, she is directly tethered to the license, and she will be earning money off of this for every sale of the game. If anything, it's almost a Streisand effect where we're giving her more of a spotlight if you're trying to avoid that by making this game truly about her.
Oh, for real. Yeah. No, this is probably, I mean, I think that this is, I would guess, the best point that Maddie will make here, because I kind of wish I had said that, because I think that that's very well put. Because yeah, it is the Streisand effect. The more we address it, the more we bring it up, it just creates the beast that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, like, you're just bringing more attention to her and discussing it more. It gives this game more press. And so it's doing the opposite of what a lot of these advocates are hoping it will do. So I don't know. But Maddie, dude needs to finish the series first. Maddie, if that is your real name. Yeah, for real. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I mean, I'm guessing he's just not a big fan of the series, you know, and that's fine. Who cares? Stream dead. It might have just started refreshing. You might have to refresh it. Oh, you're fine. You're fine, TB. I was like, if that's true, I would like to know, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure.
But to me, as a creative, I think the biggest talking point that's being ignored here, and again, this is where I think it does go beyond Hogwarts Legacy, is the lacking consistency. So the boycott...
The Titanic discriminated against the Irish. I'm not Irish, but I'm offended for them. Cancel Luke. He's building the Titanic. He has it in his studio. Cancel Luke. He hates the Irish, even though he's like half Irish. Top of the morning to you.
Have gone from gamers themselves, which again is their personal choice, to even outlets saying,
Got me
outright,
Lucky
we're not going
Charms.
to cover this game. And again, that's their choice. But here's the problem with that, I personally believe, is when you look close enough at almost any company right now in gaming, I'll be picking out a couple of major ones, there is a problem or a major controversy tied to pretty much everything, where I feel like boycotting digs yourself into a deeper and deeper hole, and there's no way to get out of it.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think that this is important to distinguish. This isn't tu quoque fallacy of argumentation, which is basically like, nuh-uh, you did this too. You know, that's a fallacy because it doesn't have anything to do with the point. If I say you shouldn't play Hogwarts Legacy because it will give money to somebody who we disagree with and who is bad, then you say, well, other studios have done also bad stuff. That's not an argument against the boycott, right? That's a fallacy. But what is being brought up by it is not, you should not play this game because other things, or you should play this game because your argument against it can be applied to other things. But what's being said is that if you are going to be consistent in this, and you can kind of challenge people on being consistent here, you can say, okay, well, if you actually believe that you should boycott games made by people or that have ties to people you don't like, you're going to have to boycott pretty much every major title in the industry, because there's always going to be some horrible person tied to it. Like the Saudi Arabia has an investment fund. They've bought major stakes within EA, within Activision, within Tencent, within Ubisoft. Like all of those games have major stakes owned by the Saudi Arabian government. And the Saudi Arabian government has horrible human rights abuses, killing journalists, dismembering them, like horrible stuff. Are you going to stop playing all of those games? I mean, for some of these people, they're going to be like, yeah, because they've never played video games. They were never going to play video games. So they're like, yes, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. But the point being brought up here is not that this is, you know, you can play these games because other guys have done stuff bad too, because that's a fallacy. What's being brought up is if you live your life by this rule set that you're trying to establish, the whole industry goes away. And so do all of the movies. Any actor or actress that associated with Harvey Weinstein, you're not going to mess with. Never watch a Meryl Streep movie again, because she was close friends with Harvey Weinstein and even called him God in one of her Oscar acceptance speeches. She said, I'd like to thank my family, my friends, and God, Harvey Weinstein, for giving me this role. You know, you're never watching a movie with her in it again. No more Mamma Mia. Like, the whole thing starts to collapse. So, and Roman Polanski. Meryl is problematic across the board. But that's what's being brought up here, and that's what Maddie's saying. So I just want to knock that out, because I've seen some people counter this and be like, well, just because, like, two wrongs doesn't make a right. Just because Activision Blizzard has horrible people working within it does not mean that you have a free pass to play a game from somebody else who did something terrible. But that's not what's actually being argued. So just to knock that out.
Eventually, the whataboutism will catch up to you. And I find that greatly problematic as someone who tries to use their platform to move the conversation forward, and I feel like these other outlets should do the same. But none of that is said to take away from the intent of said boycott, because I believe for most people it is well-intentioned, and it's very easy for, say, someone like myself, a straight white male, to be like, oh, whatever, man, just go buy your Hogwarts Legacy, who cares? You know, certainly we're not the marginalized group, so I want to make sure it's also clear, we're not disavowing those arguments, more so focusing on, I think, the pitfalls that these companies, these outlets are creating for themselves by trying to evade controversy and essentially find themselves in more. So a couple of examples here on why I find there to be some inconsistency with, again, outlets maybe shutting down coverage. I look at something like as simple as Beyond Gaming, Twitter.
Is that a thing? Have companies done that? Is that really a thing? Companies have come out and said they're not covering this game? I mean, I applaud their moral turpitude. Good for them. I think that that's a little wacky, but props. Kotaku and Polygon and Eurogamer are not doing it. Really? They're going to miss out on the wave, man. This game's going to sell bonkers. You know, their funeral, I guess. You know, that the whole like meme of go woke, go broke. It's a meme. It's something people joke about, and usually it's really, really stupid when people say it, because it's like, oh, Marvel went woke and they went broke. It's like kind of stupid, because obviously most major franchises nowadays have gone woke and they still make billions of dollars. So it's not true. Like, clearly it's not true. But this is an example where like going woke will actually make you go broke. So like it's a weird choice.
When you use Twitter.
Lachlan? Hello? About Suicide Squad stuff. Okay, let's do this. Okay, back to it. Let's see. What else you got, Maddie?
You're supporting Elon Musk. Elon Musk has become more and more controversial.
Hold on,
So a couple of examples here on why I find there to be some inconsistency with, again, outlets maybe shutting down coverage. I look at something like as simple as Beyond Gaming, Twitter. When you use Twitter, you're supporting Elon Musk. Elon Musk has become more and more controversial to many as the years have gone on. I also look at something like Tencent. Tencent is notorious for shutting down creatives, for really limiting their ability to use their voice as a creative, and a lot of those changes creatively having to deal with the politics of the world. And while that may not be the most attractive part of a video game for people, certainly I can relate. We have to admit that there are politics deeply embedded in pretty much all of our favorite creative experiences. I think that stuff is so important to be able to make what you want to make, but they actively have changed and shut down games because
for me, the easiest one that's just one and done, the Saudi Arabian investment fund for video games. Saudi Arabia literally murders journalists that disagree with the crown. They stone people who are members of the LGBTQ community. They don't allow non-Muslims to wear like green on certain days of the year. It's like a super, super screwed up regime. One of the most backwards in the world. But because they have all this money, people are just like, they just look past it. But because they've invested in all these companies and the success of these games will lead to enrichment of Saudi Arabia further, are you going to boycott like pretty much every major AAA game? Probably not. Probably not. Didn't like 3,000 people died building that stadium? I don't know, but I fully believe it. Yeah, I fully believe it. It's because it's, I mean, they, if any country were down to use slave labor, I'm sure it's Saudi Arabia. And the fact that you'd have to Google that to see whether or not they used slave labor in the creation of these things should tell you a lot. It really should, because most countries, you'd be like, you know, oh, did you hear France used slave labor to build whatever new building they have? You'd be like, I don't know about that. France, I don't know. But Saudi Arabia, you're like, let me Google it. That alone should tell you a lot about Saudi Arabia, okay? So for me, it's just like, again, the Puritan argument of these people are like have backwards views on these things, and because they are somewhat related to this thing, if you engage with it, you are supporting them. I just don't find that very compelling, because again, the world stops functioning if you truly believe that and are consistent.
They don't like what was in them. They don't like that it was maybe contentious. There are really bad views deeply embedded within Tencent, and their fingers are deep within 800 plus companies. What are those companies?
Oh, I mean, yeah, the USA has also had its fair share of controversies, don't get me wrong. But I think that the Saudi Arabian government's recent actions, pretty much everybody should agree, are bad.
Well, just to name a few, we have From Software, released the biggest game last.
And let me be clear, it's not like like Islamic thing versus Westerner thing. I have a friend from back in high school who's, I don't know if you'd call him like a super devout Muslim, but I mean, he's a Muslim. And he is like, oh no, like the Saudi Arabian government is horrifying. Like very openly. It's like, yeah, no, it's horrible.
Last year, Elden Ring. We have Ubisoft, of course, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry Beyond Good and Evil, and many other games. Platinum Games, who just released Bayonetta 3, and that had its own separate controversy. Epic Games, that one's 40%, by the way. Epic Games, who, yeah, runs Fortnite, the biggest game in the world, probably next to Call of Duty. Speaking of which, Activision Blizzard, no stranger to controversy at all. And we know that with Activision Blizzard, that currently Bobby Kotick is at the top of the food chain, and there's been a lot of controversy surrounding him as well. But guess what's the #1 gaming franchise to this day? Call of Duty, an Activision-owned IP. Now, obviously, all of these companies I've mentioned have various different situations. I think the best comparable in the case of the gaming space is probably Activision Blizzard, because the simple way of putting it is there's a really bad controversy at the heart of this, and particularly people that folks aren't fond of, and the consumer asking the question, am I wrong for buying this game? And we'll talk about that more in a moment, but I'm of the mindset that I wouldn't call you a bad person for buying, say, Call of Duty or buying Hogwarts Legacy, strictly because I think you're supporting creatives, the hundreds and sometimes thousands of people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into these video games, and they shouldn't be punished because of some bad actors. At least that's my 2 cents on it. Now, that's not to say that the ends justify the means, if you will, but what it's to say is that all these games have gone covered, have received their respective exposure despite those who were tied directly to them. And it's because eventually, for a lot of these outlets who are trying to shut it down, the business needs outweigh the morality for many of them. I have the benefit of, if I were to choose to boycott Hogwarts Legacy, my business would thrive regardless because it runs in a lot of other pockets.
Yeah, dab on the haters. Yeah, I mean, it does start to really scream, and this is why bringing up these other examples is important, because you start to look like you are hypocritical if you call for boycotts of Hogwarts Legacy, but you don't call for boycotts of Call of Duty, of Fortnite, of any game that's been invested in by Saudi Arabia, like, which is pretty much every major AAA game nowadays, because they've bought stakes in effectively every major publicly traded company. And so pretty quickly, you just have to decide if you're going to be consistent with this, that you are just not going to play games anymore. And that for a lot of people, it's like, okay, well, if my methodology leads me to an absurd conclusion like that this entire industry is moot because of this like philosophy I'm trying to live by, then maybe there's something wrong with the philosophy. And that's when, you know, this whole argument starts to kind of collapse for a lot of people. Yeah, I think we'll include this reaction, Rocky. I think that's good. To just include this whole reaction if it works and is relatively smooth.
View the hundreds and in some cases thousands of creatives that pour their blood, sweat, and tears into every inch of these games, and I don't know if they should pay the price because of one bad actor. Or in some cases, multiple. In the case of Hogwarts Legacy, it seems to be one. In the case of Activision Blizzard, it was most of the managerial staff. It does differ from situation to situation, but...
I know this is a tangent, but it always... The term blood, sweat, and tears always has kind of broken my brain when it comes to video games, because I'm like... I just imagine the devs sitting at their desks and then they're just like typing so quickly that their fingers are bleeding. Because I'm like, how do you get blood involved in the development of a video game? And then I snap out of it like 10 seconds later, like I just did, where I'm like, no, wait, what did Maddie say? Because I kind of just go into a weird zone. So sorry, I got kind of distracted there. But anyway, what do I think of Returnal? It's really good. I just suck at it, so I never finished it, but it's really good.
Always the development teams outweigh what is the couple of bad apples in these managerial positions. That said, in fairness to the boycotts, sometimes it's not always about, say, money made or developer passion. It's about maybe preventing the next thing down the line, right? Maybe the boycott doesn't really affect this game or its success, but you could argue that with all the pressure Portkey Games Avalanche have come under, that are they going to want to make another Harry Potter game despite any success that comes in there? There is a human condition to all of that, and that's where I particularly think the boycott can be effective. When you look at...
It's why I always said people are going to vote with their wallets. And with all of this stuff, you vote with your wallet. Fallout 76 was largely considered to be a commercial flop. And that's because people voted with their wallets. If it still sold well, they would just do that again. Like, they wouldn't give a crap. Same with like Skyrim Anniversary Edition and consistently re-releasing Skyrim. They do it because they can get away with it and people still buy it. In that case, people didn't vote with their wallets. They teased Bethesda over it, but people are still buying it time and time again. So with this, Hogwarts Legacy is going to sell ridiculously well. And as a result, Warner Brothers is going to be like, okay, well, yeah, there was outrage on Twitter, but we made so much money from Hogwarts Legacy. Who gives a crap? Who cares? We're just going to deal with it and put it up. And I think they have the right attitude, and specifically dealing with these types of trolls and people calling for the boycotts, where you just don't frankly respond to it. You just, okay, whatever. You know, you just don't acknowledge it. And I think that's the best way to handle it. I really do. I think that's the only way to reasonably deal with it without insanity. So I think that they're going to make a sequel. And I think they probably have already been greenlit. They're looking at the pre-order numbers and they're like, yeah, we're going to be swimming in it. Swimming in the money. What did I do wrong here? Hold on. Okay. This goes here. Oh, it's because this keeps dropping in. Nope, that's not why. Come on, you.
At Hogwarts Legacy, I think truly, love it or hate it, you can admit that this game looks like effort was poured into it. That's what called me in. Again, I was pretty steadfast on not liking Harry Potter. I gave it its shot. I tried the movies. I even tried some of the games growing up, and I think I tried to like it just because, you know, you want to fit in a little bit. I wasn't really always giving in to peer pressure, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, Harry Potter was this cool thing that people were talking about. You want to be in on that type of fun stuff, and so, yeah, like, I tried, but even then, I couldn't. So to me, Hogwarts Legacy pulling me in as just a good-looking game, I think does say something about its quality since it goes against my general taste. Like, I've even tried reading the books before. Nothing really clicked when it came to this series, so while my taste may differ to yours, to me, it's a testament to the quality of the game because, wow, it's actually making me interested, and I don't really care about this universe at all. But again, it comes back to that lacking consistency. There are so many terribly run companies with terrible people within them that we do know about, and sometimes ignorance is bliss. I think a lot of people don't consider the things we don't know about, the games we love and the beliefs held by people that are away from seeing eyes. It's a really scary thought, don't get me wrong, but it's something that we don't consider, and I think when we're quickly boycotting everything, even if it's justifiable or not, and eventually we start boycotting every differing take under the sun. This is aside from J.K. Rowling, which I understand is much more contentious. This is a separate subject here where what I
Note. Sorry, Maddie. I paused it at the wrong time. Yeah, I don't know. It does start to collapse. Come on, Luke, get it up, lad. Oh, Maddie, that's your real name. Finish the god dang series. Peer pressure. I like Harry Potter so much, and I was not allowed to watch it as a kid, and I didn't get to engage with it in my youth. And I'm a little bitter about it because I think I would have loved it as a kid. And so to hear somebody like Maddie come along with this disrespect, it's just infuriating. No, but like, I do get it. It's not for everybody, and not everybody has to like it. I don't understand how you could be like, I don't really like it, but well, I mean, whatever. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you know what? I don't think you're right. You know? What keyboard am I using? This is a GMMK Pro. So this is like a starter keyboard for people who want to get into customizing their own mechanical keyboards. So if you look up Glorious, G as in gorilla, MMK as in kangaroo, and Pro. Look this up. You can get it. It comes with a really nice aluminum body. You can order whatever switches you want for however you like your keys to feel. Custom back plates, whatever keys and key toppers and keycaps you want. And it's just really, really good. It's a really solid keyboard. This is my first one ever. I kind of started with these easy all-in-one kits, so I started with this one. And I think in the future, I'll eventually replace this one that I used for the streaming PC. I'll replace it with a custom mechanical keyboard as well. I just, you know, I don't need it right now, so I'm just vibing, but I really like it. You never let me build you a nice custom mechanical keyboard. I mean, I'd be down to do that. I could commission you to make it. My favorite are the thonky keyboards, the ones that make the good, like, I don't even know how to make this sound, like that kind of thonk sound when you type on the keys. I love those. Like, if you've ever seen that video that, I forget his name, but he does videos on YouTube of custom mechanical keyboard customization, and he was hired and commissioned by Tfue to make his custom keyboard, and good God almighty, that thing is Gucci. Rocky, what did I miss? I'm so sorry. What did I miss? Oh, it's all the way up there. Hold on. Also, side note, the Last of Us show watch party poll is so divisive. I find that really surprising. I thought it'd be overwhelmingly like, hell yeah, let's do it. I'm genuinely surprised that it's divisive. It's like we would just hop on Discord in a voice chat and then hit play all at the same time, or screen share or something. And amazingly enough, people are like kind of torn. What mouse would you recommend for gaming? I like the G903. I like this one, but it's mainly because I've used it for a long time, so I'm used to it. It's a little heavier. But the other ones that are really good are those super lightweight ones. I think it's like Aerix or Aerox or something like that. But like, look up the lightest mouse in the world, lightest gaming mouse, and you'll find it. I think it's like $75, but I've used that one for a little bit, and that one is real sexy. Aerox, yeah, I think that's what it is. It's got like the cutouts, so your hand, like the air breathes underneath your palm, and it's very, very light. It's really good. And what chair is this? This is the Secret Lab Assassin's Creed Special Edition chair. And as you see on the back of it, it even has custom embroidered stitching of all of the Assassin's Creed games, different logos and stuff. Super, super cool. Super cool.
I've noticed is sometimes when someone has a differing view in the industry, and I consider myself a more progressive person, but when I see someone with a differing view of mine, I see them typically getting the boot out of their industry. And even if I sit there and go, well, I disagree with what they said there, I feel like we're slowly stripping away the ability to critically think as a society, thanks to social media. But in the games industry especially, you know, I think we're still in our infancy in a lot of ways where, you know, you really got to think about how quickly people get the boot here. Again, separate from Hogwarts Legacy, but collectively, there is a lacking consistency in how we approach the bad actors in and around our industry. And unfortunately for those boycotting, like I said at the top of the video, the game is a runaway success, if anything.
Yeah, and I get what Maddie's saying here for sure. But and there is the perception that we cancel people probably a little too quickly. And while I think that people do it for like with good intentions, they do it because they want to keep bad people from having a voice, which I can understand, I guess. I think a lot of the time it ends up causing more harm than good, because I think I've gone back and forth on this. I'm okay with, say, censoring horrible misinformation. Like the people on Twitter who tell you drinking bleach can cure cancer. I'm not okay with that being pushed out. And for sick people who are desperate to see that, I think that causes a lot more harm than good, to allow that to go out. So I can understand censoring that, because that's going to harm a lot of people. And at that point, I think you're actively harming people. So I don't consider that free speech, because you're harming people. I don't find having a differing opinion to be harming people. If you're acting on it and you're like, hey, let's go riot for this or that, like, yeah, then you're going to be harming people and their property and things. But I don't think just having an opinion that you disagree with is harming you. And I think that that's the big mistake that's been made, is that people have conflated disagreements with harm, and that's not the case. You know, you can disagree and you're not being harmed. Okay. Like, but I had a college professor who tried very hard to argue with me and tell me, in a moral philosophy class, I was the only student that like really was not taking the crap. And I was like, I just don't frankly buy that, like being told by somebody that, say, your political view is stupid, or being told that your take on some issue is a bad take. I don't buy that is violence. And they said words are violence. And I was like, we just disagree. If you're going to say that words are violence, then we just disagree. Like that's all it is. I just don't think it's violence to disagree with somebody. But I can see how if you thought that it was violence, all of a sudden, all of this behavior makes a lot of sense, right? Like all of a sudden it comes together. It's like, oh, that's why they're demanding cancellations and stuff. Because they view statements from like J.K. Rowling to be violence, because the words can incite violence and can do that type of thing. I have not seen anything I'm open to see it, but I've not seen anything she said that I would consider inciting violence. Might be out there. I just haven't seen it. I don't know.
That we've seen in the sales charts is to go off of. Like I said, #1 selling game on Steam right now. #1 selling game on PlayStation 5, the biggest next-gen console as it stands. And then #2 on the Xbox. Really, really crazy to see. Remember the last time we saw this was probably Cyberpunk, where the pre-orders were just clearing out everyone else. And it was at the point where Cyberpunk made all of its money back before the game even released. So everything afterwards was raw profit. That's a rarity in today's industry, where game development is more expensive than ever and extremely risky. So what this conveys to me, while we don't know if it's already a profitable success, by the way, it conveys to me that people are ready to support this. A lot of folks aren't even aware of the issue. And I think it does need some look.
Yeah, I will say we should clarify that. Just because it's breaking all these sales records and is so far doing very, very well, doesn't mean that it's profitable. It can still be losing money, because you've seen those pictures and videos of like the marketing campaign they've been doing for this game. They are pouring money into the marketing for this. It's everywhere. And as we get closer to launch, it's going to be everywhere even more. And I think it's because they're seeing that this game does really, really well with casual gamers who don't play many games and maybe play like 1 or 2 games a year. They have dispensable income or disposable income, and they are just looking for something to entertain themselves with. And then they see this and they're like, oh yeah, I'll buy that. So they go out, they buy a PS5, they buy this and that for it. And I think this game is going to do very, very well with that demographic. And so they're pouring money into advertising so that those people see that it exists. And so I think it's going to be profitable. I don't know if they'll ever come out and say, yeah, we made a butt ton of money on this, but we don't know if it's yet profitable.
Looking at in how effective a boycott is in our industry, I think it would be more effective if it was more selective. I think a lot of people become passionate And in this case, I totally get why. In other cases, I don't. I see people pushing for boycotts for less serious subject matter.
With Sophie, she was in here.
Their weight because there are just so many for every little nook and cranny and change demanded that, hey, if we show this many people want it, will this effectively get what we want? To round out the conversation, you can do what you want, right? I was not here to convince you of anything. I just think as a industry, we need to really look at how we tackle these controversies, because if you are a website pulling out from Hogwarts Legacy, then by your logic, you should be pulling out of Activision. You should even be pulling out of Ubisoft because of all of their poor leadership. You should be pulling out of maybe even From Software, given the Tencent investment. I think there's just a lot of invisible problems that are either unknown or unacknowledged, I think is more likely. And it's very selective on what gets pushed out to the side and what doesn't. And it emboldens a group of people that you're likely trying to shut down who would just buy the game out of spite. They're like, well, I'm going to buy 8 copies now. It's like, okay, I mean, your money, man, but okay. And I just feel like, again, the Streisand effect is well, really in full effect here and now. So I just wanted to talk a bit about what's going on with Hogwarts Legacy, the controversy, the drama surrounding it, and just throw my 2 cents in there. You know, it's a game that I think looks fantastic. I think it looks like Portkey Games has really tried. Avalanche has really tried here. And I'm really interested in diving into this and seeing if this is a game that actually makes me care about the Harry Potter IP to at least one extent or the other. But that's enough from me. Certainly.
Watch the damn movies, Maddie. Call me up. We'll have a movie night. We'll do it on Discord. We'll watch it together. Because it's ridiculous. Hasn't seen the movies yet. Unbelievable. I mean, all told, I generally, I think, agree with what Maddie's saying. I don't think he said anything that was too outrageous there. It was a pretty straightforward take. Besides coming out and saying he hasn't seen the movies, which, I mean, if he doesn't get canceled for this video, I don't know what will. But as for all of the other stuff, I mean, the general argument that he's making is just, if you're going to be consistent, you have to cancel everything. And the people that are calling for boycotts are not canceling everything, and they're being very inconsistent with it. So clearly they aren't taking this super seriously. And so you probably shouldn't either, which I think is actually I think that's a fairly cohesive argument against the boycotts. Cause it's like, even the diehard people are not being consistent here. So why should we be like pressed to do the same thing, right? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you guys convinced and compelled by the boycotting stuff? I did a survey, actually. I asked a lot of people on Twitter, and I was like, do you guys think that this actually is fair? Do you think it's fair to boycott? And what do you think of all of this? And in general, the overwhelming majority were like, lol, no, I'm going to still buy it, and I don't care. And some people even spun it back and said, I am actually more compelled to buy the game after the rage from these very vocal people. Maybe you call them advocates, maybe you'd call them protesters. I don't know what you call them, but a lot of people are actually finding it more compelling to buy it after this outrage, because they just want to spite the advocates out there who are calling for the boycotts. And that's what Maddie's referring to with the Streisand effect. I think it's going to probably have the opposite reaction or opposite effect, where people are going to go out and buy it more, and it's going to do even better because it's in the headlines more. There's no such thing as bad press. And a lot of the time when you're just talking about the game this much, it's just getting free advertising. And frankly, if the argument that these people are making just boils down to boycott the game or you're a bad person, people are not going to find that compelling. And they're going to just be like, screw you. You don't tell me what I should and shouldn't do. And they're going to say, screw it. And the game's going to do like incredibly well in spite of all of this. And they're going to be like, oh, see, so all of gaming is horrible. The whole community is awful. Proof positive. And it's like, well, I'm not entirely sure that that's the case, but I mean, I think that it's just, I think there should be another piece to support this. This doesn't feel like it's super well supported, but I guess that is just what it is. It's just supported on like one edge. Huh, okay, well, not how I would have designed it. Whatever, Apple. Not Apple, Lego. Why did I say Apple? I need more of this. So, all told, as I said, if you want to boycott, you feel the ethical and moral obligation, you should. More power to you. Do it. I will defend you to my viewers and say, listen, they're following their moral and ethical convictions. That's a noble thing to do. And that's a lot more than a lot of people do with things they believe in. So props. I'm proud of you for doing that. However, if you come along and you're trying to imply that people are bad or toxic for supporting these things and for buying the game anyways, then I think you're just being you're trying to flex your virtue on us. And at that point, I question your true motivations, and I start to doubt whether or not you're in this for the right reasons, whether or not you're calling for the boycotts for the right reasons. And I start to believe pretty quickly that you're just doing this for quick brownie points on social media. So if you want to be convincing, like if you're somebody watching this and you say, no, I think people like this is a real problem. As I said, try to harness the excitement and the fact that people are going to buy it anyways and turn it into something good. Do a stream or a fundraiser. Be like, okay, if you're going to buy Hogwarts Legacy to support the devs and play this game you've been excited for a long time, do it. But maybe throw $5 to this charity while you're at it. Maybe, you know, do a stream and then raise money through the stream for a charity that's good. Turn it into something good. You know, take it and flip it if that's where you stand. And I think that's what we'll do. You know, in my critique and my reviews and stuff, we'll raise money for good charities and try to turn this into something good. And that's what we'll do. But all told, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. But I think Hogwarts Legacy is going to do gangbusters, and I don't think these boycotts are going to have any effect whatsoever. But okay, there were also some leaks the last couple of days with regards to Hogwarts Legacy, specifically with regards to art. There were some art book details that came out, a bunch of screenshots of the art book basically. And in the art book, they describe a couple of different things. So this one, I wouldn't consider a major spoiler, but I'll just show it to you. And I guess you can be the judge. I do not consider this a spoiler. It's basically a picture of the character screen where you'll be able to customize your outfit, broom, headwear, stuff like that. And it looks just like the shot from, honestly, most recent Assassin's Creed games. It looks very, very similar to that. With the gloves, you can customize your wand, face, headgear, outfit, robe, and cloak, neckwear, flying mount, and broom. So you can swap all these things out. This will be interesting because the fact that there's a dedicated slot for your wand, I find interesting. So are you going to be able to have multiple wands? I don't think that makes sense. So maybe it's just here so you can see it when you customize it visually. I don't know, but it's interesting that they have this placed here. As for everything else, we've already seen all of these tabs and we've discussed these before. You see level 14. So it's going to be built out with a leveling system, just like we saw before. So that's pretty standard. This next thing I'm going to click on is going to be a picture of what is believed to be the in-game map. So if you don't want to see this, just don't look at the screen. Okay, you can still listen because that won't spoil it. But this is allegedly a picture of the in-game map. And as you see here, so top, opposite bottom, Hogwarts by Joshua Black, right, early world map by Sebastian Gallego. So this is apparently an early map they made for the game. So it won't look exactly like this, but it's similar. And this, I mean, this is a pretty big map if it comes out to anywhere near this size. It's pretty bold. It looks like the fan-made map. Yeah, not that far off, really. It's honestly kind of impressive. So what I believe we're seeing is right here, I think that's supposed to be Hogwarts Castle. Right there. And then this goes off to the coast. Hogsmeade, I'm guessing, is right here. And then here's all the forests and things. And then off here is the snowy areas. But all told, it looks pretty bold. Looks like there's a lot here. And then somebody said this, I'm sure someone can do a better job, but I think this is where that map we saw early on lines up with this map. So somebody leaked this and said that this was a copy of the in-game map from early on. I don't know if that's a one-to-one, but I mean, pasted here, I would buy that. That looks pretty accurate in terms of spacing and tie-in. But it really gives you perspective of like how big this is. Because if this is a little hut, then this is like a few houses and a village and all this stuff, and then the rivers and stuff. And then you look at it on the scale of this, it's a pretty hefty map. Pretty hefty. So we will see. As for other leaks, so some information dropped. Like this is a visual. This is just a screenshot from the art book. Same with this little screenshot of Hogsmeade, or concept art of Hogsmeade rather, and it looks pretty solid. It looks pretty solid. I mean, this is gorgeous. As for other leaks, it also came out about the game's potential length. According to some, let me get the exact numbers here. I don't want to mistake it. Hold on. Hogwarts Legacy leaks. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, I want to get the length news correct. I don't want to misstate it. So I guess we'll cut this little stalling bit out, Rocky, just so I can come off as more coherent, right? Okay, so according to this leak, again, I'm going to mention it for the next like 15 seconds. So if you don't want to hear how long the game is, I guess go on mute. I don't think many people will care because it's usually mentioned in reviews anyways. But according to these leaks, mute now, the playtime is roughly estimated to be about 35 hours. And according to the leakers, a completionist run will take around 70. However, they have said that there are specific quests and different things to do based on which house you are in. And so if that's true, it would mean that you would need to complete runs of all 4 houses in order to get the platinum. So a full completionist run is probably closer to like 200 hours because you'd have to go through the game 4 times. And if that's true, that's ridiculous. Proto, another leaker, said the original length is 70 hours base and 100 plus hours for 100%. Honestly, I would guess most people's time in the game is going to be between 75 and 100. And the reason I think that is because this game allegedly has a 1-to-1 recreation of Hogwarts. I mean, I think that's not even alleged at this point. They've shown walkthroughs and it looks to be a 1-to-1 recreation. And if that is the case, a lot of people are going to spend 10 to 20 hours just exploring. Going and checking out the nooks and crannies and all sorts of stuff. And so I think that's going to inflate the time for a lot of people. A lot of people. I would love to know if they have stats that they'll be collecting on like how much time is spent just doing nothing. Just walking around. I would love to see those stats because I think a ton of people are going to do that. Maybe there's a way to change houses mid-game. I don't think so. I don't know how they would do it. So I doubt it. I think you'd have to do separate runs. Oh, I get worried when games go above 20 hours in terms of repeating missions and enemies. Yeah, I'm also, I mean, you got to be cautious because it could go either which way. But with this, to me, I think it implies a pretty hefty main story, which I'm okay with. I expected this to be a small, short game. Yeah, kind of me too, especially because this studio previously, they've only done like kids games that are very small. So to hear that they're making something massive like this is pretty impressive. Was it confirmed that this is the first legit Unreal 5 game? I don't think so. I think it's Unreal 4. I thought it was Unreal 4. I don't know. Have they said that? No, Hogwarts Legacy was not designed using the Unreal Engine 5 engine system. Instead, Unreal Engine 4 was most likely used since the game's development started as early as 2018. The game's availability on both previous and current generation consoles further proves that UE4 was used for this particular title. Yeah, because I don't think UE5 works with Unreal or with like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So I don't think you could build it in that. Hopefully PC isn't shit that. Yeah, I've not seen the game, but I will say this year or last year, I guess, in the last 6 months, The two biggest Unreal Engine 4 games we got were horribly broken on PC at launch. So if I were you, I don't know anything you don't, okay? I don't have secret knowledge. I'm not leaking this. I'm not doing anything like that. If I were you, I would probably, if you have the option, play the game on console first. Because history has shown you are much more likely in an Unreal Engine 4 game to have major problems on PC than on PS5, you know, if you can play there. So I would say if you can play on the PS5, probably play on the PS5. I will be playing on both. I will have a PS5 copy that we'll be playing on. I think Nikki will be playing on that one mostly. We're going to do a little test. Nikki's going to help me. She's going to be playing through on a Ravenclaw playthrough, and I'll be playing through probably on a Slytherin playthrough because I want to see how they compare, especially because this is about dark magic and being evil and having that option. And I want to see if it's different playing Slytherin versus Ravenclaw. And also, apparently, there are entire missions, according to some leaks, that have not been confirmed. Okay, so this is pure rumor and speculation. But according to some people, Ravenclaw saw some cuts to its questing. So there are like specific quests for each house, and apparently Ravenclaw saw some cuts. That's what one leaker said. It's not confirmed. Might be true, might be a lie, but that's why we're going to test it, because I want to see if there's separate quests related to each house that maybe Ravenclaw got screwed out of. But I don't know. Yeah, Avada Kedavra is also, just according to the leaks, this is no surprise. I predicted this like 6 months ago because it only makes sense. Apparently, Avada Kedavra is only available to players to learn after the events of the main story when you're in the end game and just kind of screwing around. That makes sense to me because Avada Kedavra, if you could use it just casually in the main quest, like in theory, it would ruin most boss fights. You know, like it would just ruin it. So it makes sense that you can't just use it willy-nilly. And that's for me more of a reflection of like it being a video game. They have to make some decisions like that. So I'm okay with it. I know some people might be upset, but for me, I'm totally okay with that. It does make the Dark Arts Arena kind of suck because it makes it feel like it's the only place most players will get a chance to use it. But I mean, it's whatever. What topic are we on for Hogwarts Legacy? We were just talking about some of the leaks that came out. Some of the leaks. Somebody once told me Hogwarts Legacy was going to roll me. So we will see about that. As for other little tidbits that leaked, it's really, really tough to know what's true and what isn't. Let's see. Some of the things people have been like frustrated about. Be weary on screen in some of this text. You might you might consider these extra spoilerific. Let me just say this. This next bit it would classify as a spoiler. Quote, in the Reddit post, author Spheromancer, I guess, states that there are multiple Merlin puzzles to solve. By the way, I joked around saying that we would say in our videos, we'd call him Mervin for like the whole runtime of the video and just to trigger Harry Potter fanboys. And then at the end, just be like, I got you. Trolled you. I don't know if we'll end up doing it, but I think it'd be really, really funny to just call him Mervin. And then like every time we reference him, slightly mispronounce it differently. So Mervin, Morlin, Marlin, Molin, you know, we just every time we say it, it's a little screwed up. Melvin. Yeah, I think it would be really funny if we just slightly screwed it up for the whole video. And by the end of it, it just starts to get ridiculous, you know, Moilerin or, you know, Moiguar. And just see if they start to buy into it by the end of it. If you weren't doing YouTube stuff, what edition would you buy? I wouldn't be pre-ordering it. I'd be waiting for reviews because this one, there's a lot of red flags with it that I'm skeptical of. I still think it looks really, really good. And if I had to bet money, I would bet that it ends up really good, but I'm not a betting man, so I'm not going to bet 60, 70 bucks if I don't have to. But because it's a game that I need to cover for the channel, I'll be most likely getting a review code, and review codes, they always send the cream of the crop code. So they send the best edition with all the DLC and everything else. Sorry, as okay, I'll be real quick, Lizzie. I'll be real quick. Okay, real quick to go through this. Not everything in the leak is good news, with some information pointing to cut content that may be set aside for DLC. There's also information regarding a decrease in the size map. While some of the information isn't the best news, there's still plenty to look forward to and great voice cast that was brought in for the game. Yeah, so basically, according to the leaks, about 25% of the map was cut during development for sake of scope. So that picture we looked at that showed the screenshot of what's alleged to be the map, it's implied that Luke's about to lose a good chunk of change, but it's implied that there's going to be the map's going to be smaller than that. It's been cut and changed, so that's one thing to note. As for other things, it's also been implied that there were cuts to the Ravenclaw questline, like I mentioned. I don't know if that's true. This could be lies. It could be all made up. Some of it could be made up. Some of it could be true. We will find out. We will see.